Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That one's from Maryland.
Maryland. Yeah, Bill was pointing to me, but I still didn't get it. My glasses get fuzzy at this time in the morning.
Did you give me back that stuff?
I did. Okay, we're going to start with our workshop meeting. I'll remind anybody who hasn't been here before, the comments are welcome from all of the attendees at any time. We ask that the comments be limited to the topics for discussion that are on the agenda. We also remind you that comments, any comments, can be done during the regular meeting, at the beginning of the regular meeting, during that public comment session. So I'm going to just start out by saying on Saturday, a few of us were over to watch the inauguration and ribbon cutting of the skateboard park, which was really a pleasure. There were a lot of happy and eager kids over there, and I'd like to again publicly acknowledge the people that are really responsible for pushing this. You know, Barbara Kissel and Paul Kelly being amongst them, but not certainly the only ones that deserve the credit for that. And I am told yesterday that as of now we have 67 kids signed up, registered to
New. Not by a long shot.
198.
I'm sorry, 198. I don't know where the 67 came from. 198.
You're thinking of golfers.
I'm thinking of, yeah, actually, I'd try
Your sport.
198. Yeah, if we can only just get a golf club in their hands, then we would be way ahead. The second item on our agenda, I'll turn it over to Marty, is the subject. It's called rental fees, but it's I think it's a little broader. It's user charges with respect to the community hall.
It is. I don't know. The motion last month was for the general manager and Parks and Rec to update the existing price structure and then bring it back to the board for a vote.
I'll have it back to I'll be circulated to the board probably within the next week or two. What we've done so far is we've developed the estimated cost for the year, which are about $132,000 top rate for a full year. We're dividing that among, on a daily basis what it would cost, and then trying to identify the specific costs for different groups. And that's where the challenge comes in, because card players require a certain amount of setup. Other types of events require more. So I'm trying to define what those costs are and trying to assign. Once I get that all established, I'm going to set up a schedule of fees. I'd like to review those fees with some of those user groups to avoid what happened when we established the policy over the country club for kitchen use, which was we established a policy 1 month and we came back and revisited it the next month because we received many objections about it. So I'm going to attempt to avoid that process and make it comprehensive. In addition to that, Bill Rayco has developed a suggested policy for rental fees on the storage areas, and I'm going to incorporate those into the report as well.
Okay.
Great. We have bounced those suggested fees off the board. At the same time, you're putting them out.
Absolutely, yeah. As soon as the draft is done, I'll circulate it all.
Thank you.
Okay. No other comments? Move on to the next question or issue of resolutions. And Jim, can you bring us up to date on that?
Just for the record, I'm Jim Trumbull, the chair of the Bylaws and the Resolutions Committee. There are 5 resolutions today before the board for what's called the second reading. That means today the board can adopt the resolution or resolutions with or without amendments. Amendment can be made today and still be adopted. It can be deferred for further consideration, or just outright rejected, and whatever has to come next comes next. For those of you here, members, there are copies of these resolutions over on the table if you haven't seen them. Of the 5, one is the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee. The second one is the Tennis Advisory Committee. The first one is C13, the second one is C14. And they are simply rewrites of the existing advisory committee resolutions. There's no significant changes in those resolutions. C15, the third advisory committee resolution, is a new resolution for an aquatics advisory committee. That is a new resolution that was drafted, what the board has, was drafted from input that the committee received. That, again, is a new resolution, new committee, which I believe is actually in effect right now. 2 other resolutions, F01 is investment guidelines. There's an existing investment guidelines resolution. This new resolution incorporates the broadening of the investment options. And again, that's before the board today as a second reading for whatever action is appropriate. Finally, there is the delinquent assessments resolution, F04. This is a new resolution. I'm sorry. I think I mistaken. I believe there is in fact a compliance for that, a resolution for that. But at any rate, this is a resolution pertaining to delinquent assessments and the process through which the board reaches resolution of delinquent assessments. Again, these are the second reading. The board can act to accept with the amendments, defer it for further consideration if consideration is needed, or simply reject the resolution and have to go back to day 1. Can I answer any questions?
Which are the ones we have for cancellation?
Cancellation. Cancellation, I'll just read the numbers. 1-83-10, that's the old Recreation and Parks Committee. That would be replacement for C13. 1-99-33 is replaced by C14, that's Tennis Advisory. C15 is new. Investment Guidelines 2-84-10 is replaced by F-01. Those need to be canceled. If the corresponding last one.
2-84-10, okay. Do you have a motion prepared for those for the regular meeting if we need to?
We'd have to make a motion.
I, whomever, move that resolutions C13, C14, C15, F01, and F04 be approved, and resolutions 1-83, 1-83-10, 1-99-33, and 2-84-10 be canceled.
Okay, good.
There's a copy of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask if the board has any concerns that might prevent us from acting on this during the regular meeting? Just as a matter of... Okay. Thank you. Moving right along.
Wait, Marty,
I do, and I feel like I might be late on this, and I don't remember it being addressed, but I see we've redlined in this fund assessments or assets, we've added all these other...
What are you talking about? Which one, Marty?
Investment
You say
guidelines.
up here under investment guidelines, F1, the goal is capital preservation. Okay? If the goal is capital preservation, why would we be anywhere besides insured instruments?
Okay, well, I haven't got it in front of me, but thank you. We do have a member of the Budget and Finance Committee here who was instrumental in drafting this and staffing it through the Budget and Finance Committee and through staff and through me, so why don't we get him to answer that question?
Sure. First of all, the red language is that which is to be deleted, correct?
That's added, isn't it?
No, it's to be added. Other permitted assets include U.S. Treasuries, master notes, and corporate planning.
We're adding that language?
Was your recommendation to add or delete?
Delete.
Delete
That's
that.
what I thought.
It was to delete that language?
Delete.
Bill, and Marty, thank you for asking that question, because the intent here, Jim, was not to broaden the range of investment opportunities, but rather to narrow them. And so the last I was involved in it with the committee, and we've been involved in it several times, was to tighten it up and to do exactly what Marty's
Okay, that's
question
it. That is a deletion.
Yeah, delete
that
that.
is to leave the investments to be as the black print there
Yeah.
suggests, securities guaranteed by the U.S. government or other federal agencies, certificates of deposit, account registry, CDR
Yeah.
should be considered in every case with granted over value.
Yeah.
That red language should be deleted entirely.
Yeah,
You notice the word there, corporate floating notes. The committee concluded that we ought not to be in corporate securities of any kind, whether they be equities or debt instruments. So, and the maturity itself, I believe we deleted that entirely as well, because we had previously been involved in a limited maturity bond fund, and that no longer is. So the way I looked at this, the red line was not the added language, rather the deleted language.
Okay,
Exactly.
that's correct.
Exactly
It is
right.
Italy. And yeah, basically under the fund assets, I mean, it says U.S.
Guaranteed by
guaranteed by
government.
U.S. government or other federal
that was the whole
agencies.
point.
That was the whole point.
And when you've got that, you've got that,
Yes.
and that's what it is.
Right,
Okay.
so this, thank you for bringing that up, Marty, because the
Yeah.
red stuff is what goes out.
What's got us in trouble?
I think Jim knew that, right? Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, that's correct.
Let's stop here and talk for a minute. Do I understand correctly that what's in red here is what's been used up until now, today? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's not what the existing resolution says.
No, that's not what it says, but we've got some, excuse me, go ahead.
Well, I just want to bring that point up. Well,
What-
operations have been going outside of existing resolutions. We can't.
I'm shocked.
No.
No. Let me
I beg your pardon, that's not true.
Let me explain. The existing resolution, which is very old, says that everything must be in guaranteed investments.
Exactly.
Exactly. Now, what we've done since then, it's not this board, it's for several years past, we've got some policy manuals that say some things. We've got some, this is in the financial management area, we've got a financial procedures manual that say we can do these things, which we can't do. So the purpose of us redoing this is to clarify, and this is going to be the guide for investments from now on.
Okay, I don't want to belabor the point, take you guys' time now. But you got off of what you're supposed to be doing. Now, whether it's you folks here, the existing committee or not, you got off of what the existing resolution said, no matter how old it is.
And that's the reason why we're redoing
Let me
them.
finish here.
Okay.
This came to the committee with material in red, which is generally used to being added. The narrative, in fact, was a communications breakdown, and all of you need to give that some consideration. Number one, you weren't following what's documented, what's posted on the website, and secondly, the communication of the information was completely inadequate, because that was raised in one context. This goes beyond what the resolution currently says. I raised that question at one time. Didn't raise it with the committee, no. But I did raise that question. With whom?
With me, and I passed it on to the committee. As you know, we're, okay, Jim, you
This
know.
is the reason we had-
This has been going on since April, that's one of the problems, okay?
And it's great that we keep having these readings, because every once in a while I'll pick up on this.
I've said more than enough. The red comes out.
Yes.
All right. Amen. And you need to
Henceforth, what comes out,
formally
use a strike
amend it,
whether
because
color
what's been said
matters or
to
not.
you was this as the draft itself. Nothing was ever said when it came to you for your first reading that we're deleting what's in the red. So you need to amend it.
Right.
You need to amend it to take out the red.
Dave, can we done with that? Just for the record, Pete, would you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Pete Gomzak, 417 Blue Water Court, member of the Budget and Finance Committee.
One question. Maturity is all red except for the heading maturity. You got a maximum interval of maturity?
No.
No, the black maturity can go also.
So that paragraph comes out in there.
Yes.
But you know, I'm looking at this next one, if I may, F4. There's red in there that is a vision.
Here's the division.
Yeah.
I think that's his point.
That's it.
Yeah.
Red was, by Jim's standards, interpreted to be inclusive, not exclusive.
Maybe we better make sure what's coming and what's going before we vote on it.
Strikeout works.
Okay.
Well, I think
think
the dialogue just accomplished that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a good catch, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. Good catch.
I'm waiting to be recognized by the president.
Oh.
Does this resolution reference any other policy manuals? Or are those policy manuals that have been used just going to go out?
Who you-
You're going to use this only?
My belief is that those policy manuals will have to be revisited and revised. I mean, because clearly they have information which is contradictory to this. This supersedes any such information.
At all in this resolution to indicate that there will be policy manuals.
Not in the resolution, but there are other instances of this, Gail, where we've got policy manuals or procedure manuals or so forth, and it's going to sort of the next step. But I think it starts with the resolution. By the way, you know, to point out, this is, I think, the correct starting point. In the past, it's not like the old resolution was just ignored. I mean, boards met and deliberately revised the procedures and policies and took votes on it, and including, at least in one instance, this board, to proceed with things that turned out to be contradictory. So we're starting with this, and I think that's the right thing to do.
I just wondered if the policy manuals for finances or anything else might be mentioned in the resolutions. That there could be policy manuals to further explain how things are going to be done.
Let me just add to that, if I may, being the guy who kind of is trying to get all this governing documents squared away. I had discussed with Dave and with Jim, and on occasion with the general manager, of identifying all those various documents that govern the policy and management of the association, and coming up with a separate resolution to identify which ones they are, when they should be reviewed and by whom, and that kind of thing. And we're working on that.
Yes, and but to answer your specific question, Gail, I think the answer is no, that there should not be a reference to those, because we don't know what they will be or whether they will be until we're finished with them.
The other documents are essentially staff procedure manuals and guidance manuals and so on, and they come and go. You know, and will change. It's up to staff to make sure this constitutes the only governing document. It's up to staff to make sure that their procedures match this.
I have my hand up before Bill Zawacki spoke, so maybe it's not necessary, because I was going to say exactly, I think, what you said. This is actually policy as it relates to the board. Many of those other things are procedures and so forth. There ought not to be inconsistencies, but again, I think the answer to the question is no, because those other things relate to procedures, how things are carried out. This relates to board policy. Okay?
Jim, I think, no, I guess.
Dick's got
That's what
something.
Larry
Yeah.
pointed out. I did not think to bring the financial manuals with me. If you take a look at them, I don't think they're inconsistent with existing resolution.
They're not, okay.
With Dick, I got him with me.
In the compliance, if you will, reversed with the finance manuals. I don't have the manuals with me, but I do know I referred to them in reviewing this.
All right. Dick?
Two questions on the investment guidelines. One is, it says our fund will be managed by a third-party professional investment management firm. We pay a fee for that. Is that necessary? That has to be a will, for example?
Should be a May.
I could place CDARS for you guys for $4 million with a call to a bank. Is there some reason why we need to pay a management firm to manage that? Or is there some reason why we have to put it in as a will?
Good question.
Second comment is under maturity. Do you want to deal with that first one?
Yeah, because maturity's gone, isn't it?
Yeah, maturity's gone.
Back to that for a second. Is there any reason why we need to pay a third party to go to CDARS? I mean, I can go to a bank and I don't have a third party to do that. I can just do that.
Well, and that's a good question, Dick. And in the past, we've had our money in PNC and all that. And we pay this, we have been paying this person in the past to do that. Pete, you want to expand on that?
I do what you said, please, you got to be contact. I think it's still necessary, and the reason is that the range of investments, even under the revised language, is far broader than CDARS. There's a whole range of investments that are meeting the criteria guaranteed by U.S. government or federal agencies. We don't have in-house, frankly, the expertise to do that in a finance and accounting capacity. And I don't think the board or the committee of the board ought to be in the day-to-day management of our investments. The fee right now is about 1/4 percentage point for those investments that are managed by the investment manager. So there is a whole range of investments that's just not CDARS. If it were simply CDARS, I would absolutely agree with you. That would not be necessary.
Okay.
But given the broader range of investments that are available under this revised criteria, it makes sense to me, and it did to the committee, to continue this approach, particularly when we consider the fact that we simply don't have the resources in-house to do it. And that's not a criticism. We just don't want to pay to bring somebody in and then substantive salary and that kind of thing. So,
Marty?
Yeah, but how would the word replacing will with may change any of that? And the reason I say may is if I had $4 million to invest, I know 20 banks that'll take me to lunch and talk about it for free.
Which may.
I have no doubt they'd be willing to take you to lunch.
And put me in the same instruments that our guy does for
Well,
1/4%.
I think we'd rather pay 1/4 point for independent investment advice as opposed to friend of a friend or relative or somebody to buy lunch or something like that.
And the guy that we're currently paying is independent, or does he work for PNC Bank?
It's independent of our association and any interest that association members or board members might have.
That's not independent.
Now,
let's change it to
I
may.
believe it is independent, sir.
No, I think there's a good reason for it, Marty. I think the
then
point
may
is
do
being.
Well, this says we will do it, and we do it that way now.
And the intent, the real intent of this is, and there's a lot of ways to do it, by the way, but the real intent of this is to divorce it from somebody within the OPA who may use that authority to his own advantage. We don't have that problem. We'll never have that problem. But you can't say that it would be impossible. That's where the independent comes in. That's why the will comes in, I believe.
Okay. Next question. May I?
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
on the subject. How long have we been using the same independent financial manager at PNC Bank? How many years?
I don't know.
Long time.
Long time.
Yeah, longer than we're.
When was the last time we shopped it?
Well, we got money, but we could shop it and leave the words like they are.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact,
And if we came down to doing everything as a CDAR 1 month, why would we pay anybody?
well, I don't know the answer to that, but I think it is a budget and finance issue.
Okay.
I think, for an example, on the CDARs, what, PNC does not handle the CDARs, and Art basically is doing the shopping himself as well as he can. Having professional advice on that might be a good idea, too, and that might preclude the one company we have currently. I'm sorry.
Having heard the dialogue here, I'm even more convinced that the language needs to remain as it is.
Yeah.
And the reason is this, that if you deleted that language must, you're then leaving it to the discretion of either the manager or perhaps the board. You would be free to respond to somebody who says, hey, I got a buddy that can do this for you. And unless you have that language in there insisting that it be professionally managed, I think you run the risk of, and that will kind of do whatever you think is good because we can do it.
Yeah, but-
So I like the discipline for the board of mandating. You can always change it if you wish.
But if I may-
the board wants to change it, they can do it. But in the meantime, you're stuck with the fact that you've got to go outside and have it professionally done instead of using a friend or a buddy or a relative.
Yeah, but if I may, Pete, let me point out that there's a hole in this right now, and it relates to the CDARs. We're not getting professional management or advice on the CDARs, I think, and I think the second point is not a hole, but we have been using the same management company for a long time, and it's a legitimate question, I think, for Budget and Finance to address both
Who,
of
by the
those.
way, is a buddy of some people at Ocean Pines.
Well, we can examine that, but I think that it should remain as will.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that this should be.
Here's another question.
Dick.
Maturity, this might be mother of an apple pie for like Art Carmine, but could you put some words in there that reflected the fact that he should, maturity should coincide with good cash management principles, i.e. that he doesn't put a $4 million tie it up for a year when he needs it in 6 months. I mean, that's, Art knows that, it's a given, but Art might not be there tomorrow. Is that?
It's more than a, I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Art's not doing it. We've got a professional manager. We just voted it will.
That's for investments, but as far as the cash flow problem goes, that's what the Budget and Finance Committee does on a regular basis when they meet every month and discuss that. They do look at that. Pete?
Yeah, to add to that, the answer to that is it's just not Art Carmine. We, Budget and Finance Committee, meet monthly, and we look at that sort of stuff. And so I don't want to incorporate that. I would not like to see that incorporated into a policy.
You all are guiding the investment firms, basically.
No,
I need a
yeah, the answer.
I need a 3-month note, I need a 6-month note.
What was said earlier is in fact true, that the CDARs, Art does indeed place those himself after making calls, but he does so with advice. And we oversee that as a committee, as I think we should. I'd rather not have it written into policy directing very specific kinds of steps. So there is a process in place. It's called the Budget and Finance Committee. Members of that probably change less frequently than does the board. So there is an oversight. It's just not Art off in the side room there doing it all on his own. All right. Yeah. So there is that mechanism.
I guess he's doing it by himself. I just wanted to make sure that somebody's not tying up the money too long when they need it.
No, I
cash flow is what I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And by the way, the treasurer plays a role here too. Bill Rako, as treasurer, meets with Art from time to time on matters of finance as well. And so it's not just one person. There is oversight, and I think that's all.
But once again, the critical issues of maturity come up with the CDARs. I mean, yes, the others are kind of, somewhat important, but not nearly. The CDARs is a matter of timing, and it's a matter. Yeah. Okay.
One quick thing. In fact, I was in his office just last week, and we were talking about that very subject. And yeah, he's laddering those investments to coincide with the need for funds. That's called cash management. Yeah. And there is a cash management function that is under Art's direct control. He is the cash manager as the CFO of the organization. That's exactly what we're talking about. And the answer is absolutely he does. He knows he needs this, a half million here, and $1 million there, and that's all taken into consideration and overseen by the committee. That's a great question, but it's...
Okay, we have any other questions on the resolutions?
Yes.
Gail.
I'm back, excuse me, I'm back to that, the other manuals. They are mentioned in the purpose. And it indicates that this is in addition to, this investment guidelines are in addition to those contained in the Financial Management Policy Manual and the OPA Financial Management Procedures Manual, which seems to place all three of them on the same level. It does not indicate that those two manuals are for staff use, not for the overall investment guidelines for the board to use.
Not quite. Read that again. Go
All
ahead, Bill.
right, Gail, thank you for pointing that out. I'm the guy who wrote that, okay? And the reason I wrote it is because the intent was is that this policy resolution takes precedence over the other two manuals that are staff manuals. Well, then I should write down, these guidelines take precedence to any other, that's a good point. That's a good point. And the reason why, when I discovered these manuals, the reason why I thought we had to do this is exactly the point you're bringing up, okay? Because in this one procedures manual, it says, short or long-term investments shall be placed in low-risk instruments such as U.S. Treasuries, U.S. agencies, prime commercial paper, or other sources recommended by the investment advisor, which is exactly what we were doing. And we discovered, quite frankly, because of Pete's involvement and his experience in the financial world, we were discovering what we were doing, and this is what we were doing. We've got to modify these manuals to reflect what's contained in the policy resolution.
Right, but that was the, just the point. I haven't seen that, and all of a sudden.
Yeah. Isn't the issue of, I'll ask Jim this question too, the issue of precedence, do not resolutions have precedence over any other guidelines? Do they? Yeah. So I think it's not explicit, but it's definitely still true that this has precedence over those guidelines.
This may not be true in every case of every resolution, but it's my view the resolution is simply an implementing document of a higher level precedent document, bylaws initially. If I had my way, you could trace the resolution back to the bylaws provision in every case. But that is not true. In some cases, you can only trace it back to the charter. But it should be traceable back to and be the implementation of a higher level document.
Okay. But certainly they have precedence over...
In that regard, they have precedence over everything else.
Okay.
That's all. This is board-approved policy, which would supersede anything in the procedures manual, I would think. And I think the bylaws has a hierarchy of order of what supersedes what.
Charter, bylaws.
Exactly. That's all contained in the bylaws.
Now,
Law, charter, bylaws.
if we'd like to change it to make it more precise, because I understand what I meant by this, because I could see that in the next year or so we're going to adjust these manuals, but if you would like to say these guidelines take precedence and are addition to, if those words would make it clearer, then we can add those words.
I'll defer to
Yes, Al.
How about you said these guidelines shall be implemented by OPA Financial Management Policy Manual or Financial Management Procedures?
No, that gets down into referring to something which may not exist
Well, these
in
two
the
manuals
future,
may not
or certainly will not exist. Very likely will not exist in their current form.
Let's just add these guidelines take precedent and are addition to for the purpose of that, and we'll move on, okay? That's clearer, okay? Do you all agree to those changes?
I think it's fine. Yeah.
P-R-E-C-D-E-N-T. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So we got that change? Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. The next subject on the agenda is CPI ARC Task Force.
Yeah, the CPI meeting yesterday was postponed until July the 7th, 09 at 9 o'clock, and after that we'll have a CPI ARC Task Force meeting after the regular meeting there. The two items that we have to take a look at today, as Bill pointed out, the first one that's on Sandy Hook was dismissed in court on April 21st without prejudice, and they said due to lack of jurisdiction. So,
have you slipped down to the bottom item on the agenda, Ray?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Fine. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Why don't we hit that one in order?
Okay. All right.
Ray, we can't move as fast as you, Ray. Well, except Kerry is here.
Yeah.
And if without objection, we...
Let's move down. I apologize. Jump on there.
Okay. All right, let's... The next on the list is the Amenities Committee. And did you have any comments on that, John?
I'm going to talk about the task force.
Oh, sorry about that. Moved too fast. Let's talk about the task force. Gail, you had a comment?
Yeah, I tried to watch the video and got very confused because I was not able to understand what the task force's responsibility was. It seemed that most of the meeting was taken up with discussing violations as opposed to setting out what the policy was going to be. So I think
Yeah, you're absolutely, that's exactly what we learned by the first meeting.
Yeah.
There was way too much of this and not narrowing down on specifically what we want to do. And that is precisely what we're going to do prior to this next meeting.
Do you have a policy?
Well, my thoughts is we simply are going to try through CPI and ARC to bring us into the 21st century based on the things that are now. They are required to go out and to enforce that really don't make a whole lot of sense. And they are relatively simple things that affect a lot of people in the community. And we're going to try to narrow down what's okay and what isn't, so there isn't any more of this confusion. And that's primarily what the task force is supposed to do. We are not there to tell them what to do. We are there to get information from them, and if they can, whatever we complied to tell them, that's fine. It's not going to be a permanent thing. We might have 2 more meetings, and if we can't get done with what we think get done, the task force is down the road. But that's primarily what we're trying to do.
How about
make it a little
set
clear.
out what what the ARC is supposed to do?
Yes, that we've gotten written information. I've got written information that'll be available based on what the CPI does and how they handle it, what their procedures are, and the same with the ARC.
Okay,
So, yeah.
One of my concerns with what ARC does is I don't see anything in the DRs that indicates that the ARC committee oversees violations.
Yeah, yeah.
CPIs.
They really don't. CPI handles violations, yeah.
So, if CPI can't get the person to respond, why is it going to ARC? It should be going to the board.
Thanks, Gail, for that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Gail.
Well, I think Gail points out a good issue, and it's a question in my mind, too. I think there are some fundamental issues that I hope during this process would be addressed. I think it's not just a matter of defining what the violations are or specifically what are going to be enforced. I mean, and these are issues, fundamental issues, ones that keep coming up over and over and over. And, certainly entry onto property, which stems back, to the DRs, is a case in point, requiring a 2/3 majority of the board of directors and a vote. There again, the criteria for doing that, is there some way that we can? Well, if you look at the delay time in doing that, it's been a consistent issue. What happens when you've got really egregious violation with a ton of trash? You wait for the next board meeting, you come in, you take pictures, you look at the whole thing. There's a question of due process, and what should the due process be? If we're going to make a decision, and Bill's brought this up, if we're going to make a decision today to either send a case to put a lien on a property, send a case to court, or not put a lien, we do that automatically, send a case to court or to authorize entry onto the property, has the property owner been notified that we're going to make that decision and we're going to do it? I don't want to go on, but these are fundamental questions. you know, and you just brought up another one, why exactly is the ARC handling violations? In fact, you know, if you want to get more fundamental, what Ocean Pines does not have is covenants. You know, we have a design guidelines where things that are properly covenants put in there. There are no CCRs for Ocean Pines. And just as an example, hate going back to the park, but we have different documents. There is a covenant section. And guess what? There is a covenants committee, and they specifically address those type. There is also a design review committee, which does what the ARC is supposed to do, which is look at additions and so forth. So I'm saying, I guess what I'm asking is, you know, I've got one more year on this board. I'd sort of like to see, and I know Bill agrees, you know, finally with
We'll see if we agree.
Well, I think so, is that I'd like to see these issues get addressed. And I think that's what I hope. Maybe it wasn't the purpose of this committee, but I'd like to see some committee address that.
I would hope, I'm not on this task force, but I will attend the meetings whenever they are there, but I would hope that when it's over, there will be a resolution that establishes clearly the compliance procedures within this association. Okay, there is one now, by the way, totally outdated, totally worthless, and this is why we're looking at resolutions. But you know, I have my beliefs on due process, and for example, it's my belief when something's presented to the board that the board should understand that the member, who may be guilty as he can be, has a right to know that we're discussing the case. We need to know if that person in fact has been notified and is being treated fairly. Even if it's only 1 or 2% of those people, I believe those people have a right to know we're discussing their case and have a right to be here to present their side. Now, do I think this is the forum it should be done? Not really. I really don't think that's the forum. However, we don't have a procedure to protect that person. So if you're asking me to vote, I'm going to vote on the evidence. I'm not going to vote on some lower court approving it and me being a reviewing authority and saying, fine, I agree, poof, go on. Even though I do trust them, mistakes are made, okay? So I think this whole process needs to be spelled out, and I will hope that I can help you guys in doing that.
Yeah, but as you can see, going back to Gail's original question, it's not obvious that that's where the committee is headed, or that's what its quote charter end quote is. So that's something to consider, right?
Yes.
I mean, okay.
If I may, my understanding was that this committee was going to do basically what has just been talked about, and that is setting up the process by which this whole thing is going to take place. Not to sit down and rewrite the guidelines.
Right.
Yes. Not to be sitting around arguing over whether or not a trailer with or without a tag ought to be a violation. That's part of the guidelines. ARC can develop their own guidelines and send them up here for approval. But we need to be working on a process that says, you know, step by step, here's what you have to do to process a violation, depending on what type of violation it is. And that's part of our problem, is that we've got different kinds of violations, but we don't have different kinds of processes.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, you just said the ARC and you know, the trailer. I mean, and you call it a design, well, it's obviously not a design guideline. I mean, it's a covenant. And the ARC, I think we believe, is not, obviously, that's not within their charter to enforce those covenants. CPI certainly has it.
Well, it's in their charter to enforce the DRs.
Yeah.
And whose? And whose charter to enforce the DRs?
It's in the charter of the ARC to decide whether or not
do you have an IR?
There is a violation of a DR.
Not that I know of. I don't know anywhere in any document that says that, anywhere. Certainly not in the DRs. They have no role whatsoever in the DRs in enforcement, none. Yeah. They can approve design criteria and set rules for the design criteria, and they can authorize and allow variances to prohibitions and restrictions, but there's nothing in the DRs that give them any power whatsoever to make a judgment on a compliance issue. Nothing.
Except de facto, they have been.
De facto, but there's nothing
De
right.
facto, and that's what the real issue is, getting rid of this day. I mean, this is not so easy, but on the other hand, so what? Neither was the bylaws, and neither is changing all these resolutions, but it's, you know, it's where we have to head, I believe. You're nodding your head, so we agree on some of this. Anyway, I think we agree.
I think if the board comes up with a resolution and agrees that the ARC is going to be, we're going to task them to be our grand jury, so to speak, or our lower court, I think we have the power to do that. By the Articles of Incorporation, which gives us the power to enforce certain things. We can do that if we write it out and say so.
We can, or we could decide that, in fact, we ought to separate the design issues from the covenants issues and create two bodies to do it. I think we all agree that there ought to be a body of residents that are in between us and the management and the CPI. I see Carrie over there nodding. I mean, that's
I'm not sure I agree
fundamental.
with that. I'm not sure that Carrie and the CPI department can't come directly to us.
Well, of course they can, but again, whether they should or not.
Well, through the GM, of course.
Yes. Whether they should or not is another issue. Again, it's due process.
I'm on this committee. I think a good purpose of this committee might be that the seven of us agree to what the heck the CPI, ARC, ECC is and does.
Right.
Yeah.
If we can get through that, the committee's a success, and I don't think you can do it in 2 more meetings.
I don't think you can do it in 2 more meetings.
Maybe not.
The next year is speculative, maybe. But any other comments? Okay, there being none, let's move on to John.
The only thing I want to say from the amenities committee standpoint is that as we go forward and have the grand opening for the community hall, it's the committee's strong opinion that this is an ideal time to showcase the rest of our amenities and the advantages that members of the Pine has in using their amenities. So we'd like to see it more than just a grand opening of the community hall walking through. We'd like to see golf, we'd like to see recs, all showcasing what they have to offer in that beautiful building. Gives everybody an opportunity to see what we have out there.
Actually, so you're talking about making an event, which would really have to start being planned pretty quick if it's going to. Yeah, hey, go back to the park, but what the heck, it has some good stuff. They hold and have been for the last few years, a community fair where various things happen. It's fun and games and stuff like that. But one of the things is, the committees have a booth, a sign-up booth. I mean, and basically say what they do and so forth. So, I mean, there's a lot.
Videos, giveaways. There's a lot of things we can do to attract people to come back to our amenities.
Do you think you have potentially within your committee anybody that would volunteer to? I mean, that's the hard part, by the way, of any of this, is to get volunteers who are willing to take the idea and run with it.
I'm not sure.
Okay, you better are you willing to make some phone calls and find out?
Actually, part of my committee, most of my committee is out of town for the next meeting, but I will bring it up tomorrow. I got 4 members out of town.
Yeah, and it doesn't
I think I bring it up to Tom because really it falls on the shoulders of, quite honestly, the staff. The staff has to pull it together. They have, and they have to decide how they want to market some of this. Bring over some food, giveaways, etc.
I don't know, the staff is the way to want to go.
Yeah.
I'm not volunteering.
Oh, good, yeah.
Nomination from the floor, free accepted.
If elected, I will not run. Every week I get an email, This Week in Ocean Pond. And in a lot of cases, it is showcasing what's going on at the yacht club, but it's not showcasing or indicating what meetings of committees are going on that week or the next 2 or 3 weeks. And I think that would be a good place, because I don't think I've seen the amenities committee listed anywhere as to when they have their meetings.
It's on the OPA calendar.
It's on the OPA calendar,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
is usually about
This is all in
what's
communication.
going on at the yacht club.
There's going to be a pair.
No.
Meetings this week, next week.
Yeah, the Ocean Times Association, but why can't it be in that email?
Oh, it could be, yeah.
I mean, it would be all the meetings that are coming up in that particular month or the next 2 or 3 weeks, sort of as a push. I mean, they indicate the board meetings, but why not the other committee meetings?
I don't know of any reason why not.
Well, the intent of this week in the Times is to promote the facilities and generate traffic to each of the facilities, and that's why it's not there. It can be added, but if there's one complaint I get about it is, it's too long, it's too boring, it's too. And again, we tried to customize it so that we generate traffic.
Yeah.
Dave? Once again, I had my hand up before Tom said what he said, and I was going to say exactly the same thing. One of the criticisms has been that particular email is too broad, too long, narrow its focus to promote certain activities, particularly the yacht club. So its purpose is trying to be very narrow, not be all things to all people. The calendar absolutely needs to be updated and needs to be better, I think, information about all those things. But when you start loading things onto something that's supposed to be a vehicle promoting certain amenities, and particularly the yacht club, I think we're going to defeat the purpose. Shorter is better, I think. But the information has to be there and updated. I think the more critical factor is A, knowing where to get the information, and B, making sure it's timely. Because I can tell you, as Phyllis knows this, there have been, I think, 5 committees have changed dates here in the last week. And so getting that information on that calendar in a revised fashion is really important, so people don't lock their calendars into a particular date and find out that, oh my gosh, it was the day before or the day after. So I think that's a more critical issue, is to get that information timely communicated.
Or maybe just a link.
A link.
A link would be perfect. A link would be perfect.
Saying, you know,
yes, absolutely.
meetings this
Without all the clutter, you can link it.
Right.
That'd be a great solution.
Yeah, that's good.
Would it be possible for staff, like somebody from golf, somebody from Parks and Recs, like to put together a little display table and a light for the grand opening for each one of the amenities? Maybe somebody from volunteer from tennis to come up with
What
some
about the
information.
advisory committees? You know, staff is not getting a raise for doing this stuff.
Well, the advisory committees for each one as well. Any volunteers you can get.
I think they could do it, but I think it would take cooperation and coordination from the amenities committee and people to force it. I think if you just mention it, it'll fall by the wayside in some cases.
Yeah, well, you could turn it over to staff, and I'm sure Tom will do something with it, but my observation has been that if people are involved, it's better done. I mean, if you can get some interest.
I mean, if we think it's a valuable tool in order to showcase our amenities, then maybe one of the things we should say is ask for volunteers who are interested in doing these type of things, because it does take a lot of time and effort to put together these events. I mean, you don't throw them together overnight. We used to plan them a year or 2 in advance, some cases. You know, and it's got to be done right.
Well,
Can I ask we change the word from showcase to sell?
All the same.
Thank you.
Yep.
advertise.
Sell our amenities.
In past years, we used to have an open house at the yacht club.
Yes.
With all amenities showing up, and also some organizations that wish to show their activities. But it always used to be a big open house, and the staff took care of it.
And that was a comment made at the amenities that we used to do this years past. We got away from it. And in fact, the amenities committee, when we finally put the report together, will probably recommend it be done twice a year. 1 year in the community hall. I mean, once in the community hall and once in the yacht club.
John, the Community Hall Task Force is planning a grand opening, and at the meeting last week when we were there, I brought up the fact that you're interested in doing this, and we're going to do something when we look at this whole thing and make sure that your recommendation is included, okay?
I know we're running out of time.
Well,
I mean, that's the critical.
We're not running out of time, but we're approaching
critical
time to say we're going to have a grand opening, and not say we're going to have a grand opening next week, but say we're going to have it when we're going to have it.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anything else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Bayside property. I'll just note that we had a meeting last week. It was an open meeting that basically went over the parameters of what we know right now and tried to indicate where we were going to go forward. It has been suggested, and I believe somebody will make a motion, that we follow up with what was one of the items on that list. In other words, the going forward list, which is to scrutinize the last contract offer that we had and basically provide inputs through me as to what we believed we would need to see changed in that contract. Thus far, I have had inputs from, not counting myself, 4 board members that were fairly detailed. And it has been proposed that we discuss those inputs in a closed meeting, and that we do that today after this meeting. Time permitting, we have to have a venue.
It was today.
Pardon?
I didn't realize it was, okay.
Well, that was the suggestion.
Okay.
I think we have to have a motion to move to closed meeting. I believe in response to the suggestion, I don't have the count, but a number of the board said that they would be available to do that. Okay. Any other comments? Dick?
Yeah, I guess my reason for showing up today is my concern about the 99-year lease. If you haven't read Joe's editorial by now, I think he's right on target that effectively you're selling that property if you lease it for 99 years. So far, I've been around here 24 years in Ocean Pines. I look back to what our intelligent boards have done in the past, and I don't mean that facetiously. They did what they thought was right. We needed a cable service, and we needed it improved, so we gave it to Mediacom. I think we made a mistake in the Mediacom in the sense that we gave 15 years with no other caveats. We do have a cable service, but we ended up with a cable service that's now rated the least favorable service by Consumers Report. I look back to the board that dealt with the YMCA. Remember that? The YMCA property? Even at that time, dissenters on the board, I think it might have even been Mr. Colbert, said, we don't even have an enforceable contract there. I don't know how that property could be transferred. Here we are 5 years later, 6 years later, we don't have a YMCA, we don't have the property. I'm not trying to beat anybody up, I'm just trying to say what sounds maybe good today to take $1 million and offset our, our increased fees. Those fees are going to increase one way or the other. But to take that and effectively sell that property for $1 million, I think is just absolutely wrong. I guess before I would go along with the one that's proposed to you, if you really intend on having a 99-year lease, instead of a referendum saying, should we go along with it, I think we should go out and seek other people that maybe want to buy 99 years worth of lease of that property. Conceivably, I could make money on that. So why would we look at a sole source 99-year leases? I guess what I'm saying. So I wish you all would reconsider that. I commend the 3 of you that said, let's just table this and forget about it. And let's just take our annual fees and be happy with it. I would hope that the others, I don't think we should waste our money on a referendum. I don't hear a big clamor in this community. Not that I hear everybody, but I don't hear a big clamor of people that want to effectively sell that property. It might sound silly, but after the next hurricane, that might be oceanfront. So, enough said. Thank you very much for listening.
Yes?
I'm Abel, 63 Woodduck Drive. What is the appraised value of that property?
The county tax and assessment database shows that as of the 1st of this year, January 1st, it's appraised at slightly over $3 million.
Why would we essentially sell it for $1 million when it's worth $3 million now, and looking at the average rate of increase of property in Ocean City, the value has escalated by a fairly large percent, certainly more than inflation, year after year after year. And if you look at what the value will be in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, it just seems inconceivable that we would even think about tying it up. I even have a problem with tying it up for more than 5 years because there's opportunities that come along that ought to be always available to be looked at. So it doesn't seem, it seems like a growing community certainly should be selling off land, and certainly not for a price that, or tying it up for a price that is just absolutely ridiculously low. I think we ought to try to maximize the amount that we get each year for the value of the parking, but not tie it up for a long time. Keep it as 5 years increments or 3-year increments that can be renewed depending on what happens. You never know what's going to happen that could affect that property positively.
Okay, thank you. Marty?
As a board, do we want to be talking facts or fiction? I mean, that lease is worth over $7 million, not $1 million. I keep hearing this $1 million. It's not $1 million, it's $7 million. Am I right or am I crazy?
Over 99 years.
It's worth $7 million.
Over 99 years.
That's if it goes 99 years. It could be worth a lot more than that if it ends anywhere in the 50-year mark.
You know,
You arrive at the $7 million.
The rent, base rent.
We would get the rent.
Oh, you might, but that's not in stone anywhere.
Understood.
It's a $7 million lease.
That's $8.50 per association member per year.
That's
Don't
right.
spend it all in one place.
yeah.
There's some other questions over here.
Okay, another question? Let's see, I think that, what's her name?
Carol Mills, Dalton Ridge Road. I'm going to repeat what I said the other afternoon. We're not going to be here in 99 years. They're not going to be here in 99 years. But there's some reason why they want a lease for that. And you people should have, if it's ever presented to us, done a little homework to find out what they have in mind. I'm convinced they have something in mind for that property.
Well, you may,
I don't know this before it's all presented, and you're talking about...
You may be absolutely right in that, but it is not the purview of this board or our right to go to an independent businessman and demand to know what he's planning to do in the future because he can just tell you to buzz off.
Yeah,
but you may be absolutely right.
We can make the contract restricted.
Yes.
Make the contract restriction. You can make the contract.
We can, yeah, we can
and
structure
they don't
it.
have a reason for wanting
I
that.
think you're right.
Yeah, but you're assuming that businessman can see that far into the future better than we can, and maybe he can, but
You're not looking to
but I don't know.
You're looking sooner than...
I think, yeah.
I can tell you from experience about these long-term leases. My family leased a piece of property in New York City for $1 million, 18 years ago. That piece of property is now worth $25 million. A shopping mall was built on it. It was a garage, parking garage on it initially. The value of that property escalated so quickly that my family was left with a pittance. And for all intents and purposes, the property is gone. It may as well have been sold because I won't benefit from it, my children won't benefit from it, and my grandchildren won't benefit from it. So the property's sold, as far as we're concerned. In 99 years, some relative down the road who I have no concept of may benefit again from it. But for all intents and purposes, that property is gone. Now, it's tantamount to a sale. If you all think that's the best thing to do, that's a good thing. But in all fairness, it should be put to a referendum. It's the same as if you were selling the property.
Yeah.
99-year lease is tantamount to a sale as far as the current residents of Ocean Pines is concerned.
Okay, well, let me say, Art, I mean...
Doris or something.
Doris,
I don't think it's morally right for the association now to tie up that property for future members of the association. Just not morally correct.
Well, you know, I have to say in response to both comments, and this board has no intention of leasing that property or making a decision to lease that property. What we're trying to do right now is gather accurate facts. I mean, every time this discussion comes up, I hear things that are just not factually correct. Just not. Some of them are speculation, some of them are misstatements. All we're trying to do, or may not be, let me put it that way, all we're trying to do is find out what those facts are. One of the starting points that we have is the draft lease itself, which we have as a board, have not actually have just scrutinized in detail. And we're trying to point at or look at exactly what we think needs to be changed in that to make it minimal acceptable, let's say. We also, in terms of the value of the property, I think perhaps as a second step, parallel step, believe, some of us do at least, that an independent assessment, not of just the value of the property, but of the value of the deal, looking out into the 99 years, is an important thing to have, okay? And that's another piece of factor. That will cost us some money, but again, it's information that's important to it. It's been suggested, and this is, Art, you should know it better than anybody, the difficulty of this, that either as part of that assessment or independently, we need somebody we need to look at the potential uses of the property. Now, those aren't just anything. I mean, those are definitely circumscribed by what the property is, what the wetlands delineation is, and so forth. I mean, it's not that you can do, and it's current zoning, that may have a wide range of things. So again, hammering out the lease. By the way, the conditions that are put in the lease can answer some of these questions if they're agreed upon. And then, let me say again, repeat again, it is not the intent of this board to sign that lease. It is not. At the end of the day, this board will take all the facts that we can get, and then make a vote as to whether or not we should take it to referendum to let the people decide. And everybody will get a vote. I'm sorry, this question back?
I just want to say I agree with these gentlemen who just spoke about this. The gentleman over here brought up the fact of property values, and the gentleman just spoke about what he brought up as personal. I think they're right on the money with this. If this guy, Clayton, really wants his property, why don't we sell it to him for $4 million? I mean, he's a big businessman. He wants it. He'll buy it now for $4 million, and he can do what he wants to do with it. But a 99-year lease is insane. It's insanity. These people bring up a valid point, and you need to listen to them. If you sign a lease with this character for 99 years, whatever he does in that property could fall back on this community in 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
If he builds a building on it and it doesn't, it's illegally built, it would fall back on this community. Don't say it won't, because it will. That's how it goes. A 99-year lease is just insane. I don't think it's good business. And that's my opinion.
Okay.
I agree with this gentleman over here and the last gentleman who spoke. This is all I got to say.
Anybody else? A bunch. Jim?
Dave, you mentioned about getting facts. Do we have an accurate survey of the property and the delineation of that?
We had one. We just had one done. It had been completed, but we haven't seen the report yet, Al. And we should within a matter of days.
It's in the works anyhow.
Yes.
And I think when it is finished, it ought to be made available to all members, because all the talk about it, we don't know what the property is. We're guessing. We have a kind of unique situation, not unique, it happens a lot of other places, but assuming that the stuff, the rumors and everything that float around are correct, the Clayton owns the land on both sides of our property. We have a situation where our property is worth more to him for a 100-year lease or purchase than it is for anybody else. I think we've got less than an acre of land. Yeah, an acre of land in Ocean City is worth a lot of money, but to be part of a consolidated piece of property of many acres is worth more that way than it is to anybody else. We have a critical piece of property there as far as Clayton is concerned. That makes any kind of dealing very difficult, whether it's an outright sale, whether it's a lease or anything else. It's not a case of what's that property worth on the market for Joe Smith who wants to 3/4 of an acre, which you can't do much with zoning and setbacks and everything else. But as part of a larger piece of property, it's a key. And it makes any kind of dealing very, very difficult. I don't envy the board trying to wrestle with that problem, but I think it has to be kept in mind. And $1 million, whether or $7 million, I don't agree with Marty's conclusion that we're really getting $7 million because we would get something for that property, whether we lease it as a parking lot to Clayton or whether we lease it as a parking lot to somebody else. Parking has a value in Ocean City, and we shouldn't consider it as part of the value of the 99-year lease, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Just so we keep the record straight, the property on the north side of our property is owned by Richard Holland, and it's about 7 times bigger than our piece. And in fact, I believe it's bigger than Secret's piece. We don't own it. We're not blocking Leighton Moore on both sides. I mean, he's already got a deal with Richard Holland.
Just a short clarification. That property we have is waterfront, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And, you know, waterfront property can be improved. Matter of fact, the state has ways to make a natural shoreline out of it that it could have some value to Ocean Pines people if we thought through what could really be done with it.
Well, I think knowing what can exactly be done, and I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know now, but I'd like to know exactly what the potential uses of that property are. Is it waterfront property? How can it, to what extent can it be developed out beyond the current parking? I don't know those questions, but again, those are answers that the board should get and should have before we proceed.
Did you say the question is whether it's waterfront property?
Yeah.
You don't know that it's waterfront property?
Well, I don't know what I do not know what the legal uses of the property are right now. What can be done? I don't know where the wetlands delineation is. I don't know whether or not what part of the property is buildable. Again, we just got the survey, and I don't, this is just information if you know where the information is, Joe, I mean, well.
I think the county would have the information.
Well, that's part of it. The city, the city would, sure.
It's a town. It's all commercial, which means that the waterfront could be opened up for.
I don't know that that's. I just don't know that that's true, Bob. I don't know that that's true.
Was used for sailboat rentals.
What, pardon?
It was used for
sailboat rentals. Yeah,
before they started.
Before. Pete?
Yeah, I just have a follow-up question from Marty Clark. Marty, you made reference to the parcel north of that, our property being owned by another party, and you said Clayton's already got a deal with him. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
He leases parking.
He leases the parking.
Do you have a 99-year lease?
I have no idea.
I was just curious.
It's not published on record.
I thought you were referring to something broad.
No.
Dick?
I was just clarifying that we're not sandwiching between.
Dick?
Two things. One is if we were to go ahead and take Marty's $7 million figure, it seems to me if you do that in current year dollars, the way some of these people would do to assess that, it would come anywhere near $7 million, number one. Again, as a board, go on trying to assess this, We just talked about having a professional firm to invest in CDRs, and yet we're trying to do a financial assessment of whether this is a good deal or not.
Well, I think what I just said, Dick, was that on the table is, in fact, hiring a firm to make an assessment, not just of the value of the property and doing simple arithmetic, to figure it in, turn it into a lease, but to look at the entire deal.
Well, and I think it's good to get the facts. I don't see anything wrong with that. I guess if you're going to go forward with either a lease or a sale at that point, I certainly wouldn't go sole source. In other words, if someone else were to come in with $1 million and $1,002 proposal to you, you might want to accept that.
Yeah.
Somebody might look at that revenues coming off of that lot, put up $1 million and say, just out of curiosity, what do you get each year out of that now? 30, 40, 50,000?
Well, it's 30,000, 35, isn't it?
30.
Yeah.
The total value is probably somewhere around $60,000.
Yeah, because they're paying the insurance and the taxes.
$1 million and, you 6%, it's not a bad rate today. I'm just saying, if you go ahead with this, I wouldn't just, once you have the information, the value of the property and where we're going, if you decide you're effectively going to have a 99-year lease, and I consider that a sale myself.
Well, I think part of, again, this independent assessment, I mean, certainly a question I'd want at least addressed or answered is what is the other potential, I mean, who are the other potential buyers or and by the way, leasers of the property. The sale, which is all, this originated way over a year ago when we had a motion passed to ask the general manager to look into the sale of the property. The bottom line on the sale is that we use that property. If we sell it, without any conditions, we can't use it.
Well, I just encourage you all to go ahead with this, to make sure that's on a competitive basis. I mean, I put out a request for proposal, not just say, I'll accept $1 million and run with it.
But I think one of the important things is to compare apples to apples. And, so you have to look at the terms as opposed to just the dollar amount. That's all I'm saying.
It's only, if I may, it's only really valuable to Layton, and anybody thinks differently is really, I say it's only valuable to Mr. Moore based on what he wants to do in the future. We're looking at the possibility of going out and getting consultants to give us an idea on how much it's worth, and we're going to spend our money to go ahead and do that. Then are we going to ask Mr. Moore for proposals on what he thinks it's worth, or is he going to come back to us? That's why I wanted to put the brakes on and just to stop everything that's going on, because if he does have a real legitimate need or desire for that property, he may come back to us with something a whole lot better for us long-term and even short-term. That's why I thought it was a good idea just to let this go by the wayside and wait and see what happens. I'm done.
Joe?
One thing that puzzles me about this whole thing is that some members of the board of directors are publicly denigrating the value of the property while we're supposedly under negotiation to sell it. I think one board member said, it's just a swamp over there. I've heard other board members say it's of no value to us other than for parking. Very curious way of negotiation. And we're trying to maximize any benefit that we get out of that. But I'll repeat what I've said in the past, that Ocean Pines is in perpetuity. We have no reason to sell the property. We are financially strong, one of the most financially strong homeowners associations probably in the United States of America. We have no reason to sell the property. The offer was unsolicited. We get an unsolicited offer that now in 2 iterations of the contract, of an unsolicited contract, 2 iterations of it now over a 6 to 9 month period, that from what public statements and board members have made, both of them have been unacceptable. And yet we continue, this board continues to try to jump through hoops to push this forward. And I'm saying to myself, what the heck is going on here? What is pushing this? What is pushing this? In terms of this business about being a swamp, I'd be willing to bet money.
I never
If this
said
deal was
that.
made, that swamp's going to be filled in by Leighton Moore or whoever he assigns this thing to with Ultimax.
I'll take that bet.
We have no idea what we may need the property for in the future. We have no idea what the two combined properties of the Oceanside property and the Bayside property, one of the last remaining parcels in Ocean City that goes from the beach to the bay. We have no idea whether the loss of the Bayside portion of the total ownings would impact the value of the Oceanside. We don't know. But mostly, we have no need to sell it. If we get $1 million, $250,000 a year for 5 years or whatever, $250,000 a year in our budget like that, we have a $14 million budget. And this notion that this is going to be a $7 million deal, it's laughable, absolutely laughable. I don't know why Mr. Clark keeps bringing that up. I mean, if he takes $1 million and you get rid of it in 5 years, you go quickly from $8.50 per year, value over 100 years, probably to $4.80 or something. I mean, this whole thing is so absurd, I cannot understand why some board members are pushing it. I don't know what the motive is. I don't know what the motive is. Thank you.
Can I help you with that, Joe?
Sure you can.
Nobody here is pushing anything. Dave said that. I'm telling you that face to face and in the camera. Nobody is pushing anything.
You're doing a good imitation of it.
We had two.
One of the best imitations.
We had two unsolicited proposals.
That you don't have to answer.
No, we don't have to answer. But if somebody offers us, we thought originally, especially $1 million, it seemed like a lot of money right away, offhand, a year ago, that we owed it to the people to at least find out what it's about. Now that we got into it, what you said is true. We don't know. And if you listen to the comments from the people, they don't really know either. Everybody has their own personal feeling about it. What we're trying to do now is find out exactly what it's about. What is the real information? For our own good, what is that property really worth? That's basically what we're trying to find out.
I don't think you can really find out.
Nobody here is looking to sell it or even lease it at this particular time, unless we get overwhelmed with something, in which case we will just let the people decide. That's the whole deal. Nothing more than
a lot of times, send a referendum out now, say, do you want us to consider selling it?
And based on what information?
Yeah. Well, we'd probably...
And I appreciate the fact that you reduced this to $8 in some sense per lot. You should really figure those amenity losses the same way. Maybe we'll get a lot more better press around it.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot, the fact is what Les says is true. There's nobody on this board that is pushing to get this deal done. Nobody. We have the deal. We're trying to find out what the deal is. We will go back, and certainly what we're hoping to accomplish today, if we have time, is to go through the lease step by step, look at what the conditions are. To say that the lease, we've got two versions of the lease, we have not been negotiating this lease. The general manager has not been negotiating this lease. We have not instructed him to negotiate nor given him any guidance to negotiate the lease. He has kept the dialogue open with Leighton Moore. He has conveyed concerns that the board has had to Leighton Moore. Leighton Moore is independently, as this thing has dragged out over a period of time, independently had his people work on different modifications and different versions of the lease. I think we can, well, no, I don't want to say what they are or whether they're better or they're worse. That's for closed discussion. Gail?
if the members of the board individually are not interested in selling or leasing the property, then why continue looking into the possibilities? I think the first thing that the board needs to do is determine what they feel should be done with the property. Lease it, sell it, or nothing. And once they have determined that, if you determine that you want to lease it or sell it, then you go ahead and look at all of the individual situations, the individual ideas. But if you are only looking into this so that you can present a possibility to the membership, then drop it. Just stop it right now, and if Leighton Moore really is interested, he will come back with another offer. But what you seem to be doing is trying to indicate, well, gee, let's look at it, see if we can get a better deal, see if we can, what's it worth, and I'm sorry, that's the way it's coming across to me, that you are looking into all of the ideas, the possibilities, because you might want to lease it.
Gail, I think, I don't know, in my mind, you know, we have a significant offer. It's not presently defined, but I can't make a decision. I mean, I personally can't make a decision to reject that without first finding out what its value is, potential value is, to the people of Ocean Pines. That's what we voted on last week to proceed with, to find that out. There's a number of different aspects of that, one being the contract itself and what conditions we can put on it to ensure that some of the concerns that people have about the future are not met. The second is the value of the property, which I don't care how many people shout and say it's, you know, make oversimplifications, one side or the other side. We don't have an independent assessment, and it is a complicated assessment. It's not a simple, here's how much the property is worth, okay? I think those two things are the information we need to be able to make a decision. And any decision that's made without that information is just based on our own personal feelings. And I don't think I personally do not feel that's responsible on my part to do that, not without doing a consideration.
If we don't pursue it now and get some of these answers, if we just drop it and wait for the next offer, then when that comes, we still won't know what's going on.
That's exactly right.
And we still have to go back and get all these answers.
And Les is exactly right. I mean, proceeding with this has value, whether or not the final determination is to take the lease to referendum or not. It has value to us.
My question then would be, not as a member of the board of directors, but personally, would you be in favor of leasing or selling?
I don't know, because I don't know the answer to the question. I don't know what the value is. I don't know. Don?
Dave, the way I'm listening to this is really two separate issues. One of them is we need to look at that piece of property in a lot of different ways that aren't even connected to the lease offer. You have an asset that you want to know what it's worth, what it could be worth, how it might be used, or anything else. It doesn't necessarily have to be attached to any particular offer that comes in on it. It's something that you're doing to evaluate a capital asset. The lease offers that are coming in from Leighton Moore, and in my mind, I'm just looking at it, Marty's numbers say $7 million over 99 years. I'd love to get a 99-year mortgage on my house. But the $1 million is probably about a third of what it's assessed for by the county. So, you know, in my mind, if somebody approached me with a third of the value of my house with payments over 99 years for some other consideration, I think I'd just say, no, see. I still might want to find out what my house is worth on the market and everything else.
But as far as that offer's concerned, it would just be, I don't see a responsibility to go back to him and talk this thing through. Do your due diligence on the property. Find out what it's worth. It's in an IDA, an intensely developed area. The wetlands might not even be a problem for you. They're doing things over there that make the environmental protection people cringe. I mean, they'll build a bulkhead anywhere.
Well, you're correct, Bob, in saying that there are two issues, but I believe you're incorrect in saying that they can be separated. At least in terms of getting information, the lease itself provides, or the draft, provides a framework for sitting down and deciding what is it that we would really want to see if we were to look at a long-term lease option. I mean, what is it that we would look, I mean, how would that differ than a straight sale option? Not just saying, hey, this is tantamount to a sale. Well, you know what? I don't know what tantamount means, but it's not a sale. It's different, okay? Now, what those differences are, okay, need to be spelled out. And we're not going to spell that out unless we address the issues, and I think the current proposal provides us a perfect framework to address those issues. Now, the result of addressing them may be, hey, you know, this just doesn't make sense. That coupled to the evaluation of the property, again, by an independent source. You know, it's worth $7 million. It's ridiculous to say it's only worth $1 million. Bob, you know, or Leighton must be laughing all the way to the bank. All of those things are useless statements until we get some framework for getting evaluation. If we go that far and we end up not doing it, then we still have information that's of value to Ocean Pines and to future boards.
Why don't we do the same evaluation on the beach club property? If this is so.
I think we got to move on.
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to call this to a close. We only have this room for so long, and we've still got a lot of things to do. Bill, 10-year plan, can you give us an update on that?
Well, next week, some of us are going over to Ocean City to talk to the building officials over there to present a broad concept of what we're thinking about doing. And what we're thinking about doing is building a new restroom facility between the existing parking lot and the building itself. And the other thing is, and it's separate from that, is
At the beach club.
At the beach club. The other one is just looking into the feasibility of paving the parking lot to see if we can do that, and then determining from there if we might want to do that, okay? And of course, anything we do over there, once we decide to do it, will be presented to the board. It probably won't be a referendum issue, but we'll make sure the public, the membership gets a lot of input on that, okay? The next thing we're looking at is the Yacht Club complex. That is a longer term thing. The beach club, by the way, if we do that and we get, you know, we move on, we want to get that done, those two things separate, done by this time next year before we start the season. Yacht Club's the following season, and we're looking at that whole complex. We're going to meet with somebody soon. I've been down to the county already. We're going to meet and see just what the implications of those wetlands are between the Mumford's Pool and the Yacht Club itself, because we're talking about doing some things in there that may be totally infeasible. But anyway, that's where we are, and we're moving ahead on this, and we'll keep you updated.
Bill?
Yes.
When I first heard about the complex idea, I think it's nice. I think it's smart.
The Yacht Club complex
Yep,
thing?
yep.
Okay.
But I went over and started walking that ground, and you know what I found out? If you just walk around the Mumford Pool, there's a walkway that goes right to the Yacht Club.
Yeah.
It's already there.
Yeah.
Been there.
Do you think the reason they're not knocking the doors down to buy hot dogs is because as of 2 days ago, they still weren't offering them?
Could
If
be.
you sent your kids from the Mumford Pool, follow that path over to the Yacht Club, get Dad and Mom a couple of hot dogs and some sodas, those kids would be wandering around for a long, long time.
You're addressing a different issue, Marty, but I
No,
agree
it's
with
the
you 100%.
same issue. Why would we spend a fortune dressing up the area between the Mumford Pool and the Yacht Club if we're not going to make a commitment to sell food that people at a swimming pool want to buy?
That's a good question, and when we find out what we can do in there, I'll give you some answers, okay?
Okay, let's just start selling hot dogs, and if you sell a bunch of them, that we can get the money.
I think,
It's better cash.
I think too, when you're looking at, I mean, the idea of the Yacht Club complex is more than just the path down to Mumford's too. But I think what Bill's saying is that committee is looking at that entire thing as one issue and addressing from the pool, the furthest extent of the pool down to Mumford's Landing. And I don't know.
But the issue was to increase sales and utility of the yacht.
That was one.
The issue was more than that. The park, just making the whole place a nicer, more friendly amenity for a lot of reasons. So, and that's what I'm looking at, okay? And we got a lot on our plates here, and I'm looking at that, and we're gonna come up with some recommendations. But your points are well taken, okay? But let's look at the feasibility before we start looking about our possibility, what we might want to do.
Let's fix what's broken before we redesign it.
I'm with you on that.
Please just repeat what you said the committee would like to build at the beach club.
We're talking about, and we've come up with some concept designs, and we presented it at a special meeting, I think it was May 10th, at the Yacht Club, but a new restroom facility, just located somewhere between the pool and on the parking lot side of the pool and the existing structure itself. Okay, that's what we're thinking about doing.
Any idea of the size of it?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in my head, but we got some concept drawings. I'd be glad to show them to you.
Yeah.
Well, I just wasn't clear what you said. I wasn't sure if
Okay.
you were saying a new restroom facility or a new restaurant facility.
No, restroom.
Yeah, my mind was wandering, and I thought he said restaurant too.
Restroom.
Wait a minute.
Bill, thank you. I'm also on that task force, the 10-year plan task force, and those drawings, I believe, are available, were presented at that special meeting of the board. They're available to you if you would like to see them. And it's addressing really the number one need that the committee so far has identified. That's the lack of restrooms in that facility, and frankly, how disgraceful they are.
I was just kind of wondering why we only did a restaurant.
But not a restaurant.
I'm sorry if I misspoke.
Bill, somebody else back here wondered if it was going to take away parking, and the answer is no.
No.
We're going to add parking probably.
We hope if we pave it, and that's again a separate issue because of stormwater management stuff, so we're going to find out if that's even feasible before we start looking at the details. But we would be able to maybe not have technically more parking spaces, but because they'd be lined, people would park properly and we'd have more use of it. But we're looking into that. We haven't done anything, okay? Yes.
But these issues determine, I think you said in reference to the bathrooms, how disgraceful they are. I'm not a regular user of the Beach Club, but I did attend a private party over there a couple of weeks ago. There was maybe perhaps 100, 150 people there. Went on until about 9 o'clock at night. Having attended that board meeting you're talking about, I asked several ladies there to go in and look at the ladies' room and let me know what they thought of it. Didn't say anything about it. Go and take a look around, see what you think. They all came out and said, looked great. Now, I mean, between looks great and disgraceful was a big stretch.
Yeah.
I've never said it.
Excuse me, I think we're talking about, Joe, downstairs below grade.
That's right.
Where the showers.
That's what we're talking about.
And they're fine?
That's what they said.
Okay.
And I went to the men's room, and all looked clean, looked great. Carrie, people were doing a great job.
Those were people with a positive attitude. They
were obviously also drinking.
I think, Carrie, do you get a complaint now and then about the Beach Club? What's the number one complaint?
Number one complaint the Beach Club or the bathrooms?
It's the cleanliness after people are using it all day. It's not kept clean late in the day.
Yeah, it's a little more than that, a little more than that. but,
It's below grade, it's below grade. That's the problem. The sand and the sand intersection.
okay, let's move on, whoops.
ARC.
Okay, ARC violation.
That's you.
It's me, where the, so. Carrie, you have a copy of that violation with me. I'm going to ask you to...
Which one, Sandy Hook?
I only have one.
There's two. There's one on the desk.
Two.
Oh, okay. Oh, we have quarter staff too.
Want to do the easy one first?
Yeah, let's look at, is there any words that go with this? Okay.
Brought in some words. Just didn't have any words, but
Okay, I've got them.
don't have words. It's right in there. Tom passed them out this morning.
Okay, 80 quarter staff, debris on side of the house and on the back deck. Violation of the declaration of restrictions, and basically there was an initial inspection. The first letter sent via regular on 4/30, and the letter was sent that day via regular mail on 4/18. Follow-up inspection completed. Second letter sent out via certified mail, and it was received on 5/20/09. Follow-up inspection completed on 5/28, and the recommendation is to have Public Works remove the debris and charge the homeowner for the service. Comments from anybody?
That's where it was at, and I too kind of agree with Bill. I've taken that advice on some of these compliance issues, and it was supposed to be the art meeting on July the 1st, which was canceled, or Tuesday, which was canceled. So the trash laying around on the driveway, you got the picture there?
Yep.
We figured that we'd bring it right straight to you today for the vote to enter the property to remove that stuff.
I don't see a picture of trash on the driveway.
Trash on the side of the house, unless that's part of the driveway, I don't know.
I walked from the street, I could not see this, and I've got photographs of the house from every angle.
Kerry, you talking about Sandy Hook or Quarterstaff? Sandy Hook.
Quarter staff, we're
In
looking
order
at
to
quarter
see this
staff.
trash, I believe you have...
The trash may be removed was out front. Let me see a picture.
Well, they don't have a picture out front. If you want to see a picture out front, I got to run out to my car. That's not there.
It's not there now, it's gone?
Yeah, it is.
From the back?
You want me to go get the camera? I just
That's
took
the
a
back of the
picture of
house.
it.
That's the back of the
That's
house.
the back of the house. That's not the front of the house.
Oh, if you're saying it's the back of the house, it's on the back of the house.
From two pictures, it's very difficult for me to say what it is. What I'm saying is, I photographed from, was it Castle Corner and whatever this street is,
So are we...
Quarterstaff, and I don't see this.
So the trash is allowed to be there? I mean, it's up to you. That's why it's to you.
No.
Trash
You
is
can
not-
say that, I'm just,
Yeah,
That's why I don't...
my point is, how did we get the pictures?
We went on the property and took them.
Okay, that answers that question. Second question, has anybody talked to the homeowner? We have a phone number here, has anybody talked to this person?
It's not our official line of communication.
Okay, on our official line of communications, and I'm only going by this, is this still in effect?
what's that?
This, the CPI violation guidelines effective January 109?
You've got me.
There's the guy.
Do we?
They're effective January 1st, 09, yes, they are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so these are the guidelines, the management guidelines that are being followed.
So how do we get a 15-day letter, a 10-day letter, a 30-day letter, a meeting, another 15-day letter, all out in 1 month?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Well,
All right, can I
I
say
think this is
something?
enough.
Marty, what Marty's reading from is a document, this is why we're having this ad hoc committee to come up with procedures of how things are to be done, because what Marty's reading from there, I believe...
Quarterstaff or Sandy Hook?
Huh?
Quarterstaff, this one right here.
Quarterstaff. What Marty's reading there, Tom, I believe, is a document you gave us at a meeting in January of what your procedures are, okay? There's nothing in there about fast tracking.
Did you bring them, one of the emails, did you bring
The email, they all distribute the email.
All right.
Process with Mike.
Anyway, what this is a case of trash. I don't know how you found it. I guess somebody complained, right? It's nice to know why we're doing this, because you can't see it from the street. But to me, they have been letters, and the person has acknowledged the letter, right?
Yep.
So this is kind of a shut and dried case. The place, I wouldn't want to live next to that. Marty, you wouldn't want to live next to that. And we're not going to send them to court. That's a very important thing. We're talking about a 2/3 vote to allow the general manager and the association to enter on the property and clean this mess up. And since the person has acknowledged they're aware of it, I believe that it's a proper thing to do.
The other thing is the first letter was sent on April 30th. The second letter was sent on May 18th.
It was supposed to go to the ARC.
So the time frame
Since it was received.
The time frame was on schedule, but it was supposed to go to the ARC. The ARC was canceled. That's why we got it.
After the ARC committee meeting, the 30-day letter is sent to the owner.
It's never got to the ARC meeting.
And got,
Well, then what do we do?
What is
parallel enforcement options here, that he's enforcing the one that you liked better a couple months ago, and that was when you've got debris on the property, the DRs,
I don't see where it says anything about ARC and the DR about trash.
No, that's correct. It doesn't.
Normally we get copies of all the letters. Okay? Am I right? I mean, here's the other package. It's got to be 8, 9, 10 pages.
The ARC meeting was canceled, Marty, on Tuesday. That's why we brought it to you, because it didn't feel it should be laying there.
That doesn't mean that these 2 letters couldn't have been copied and handed to us.
happy to get you.
I only asked because we have been known to send letters to the wrong address.
Well, in this case, a letter was received and acknowledged, okay?
By Vincent or Christina, whatever. Okay, one last question, and I'll let you guys do what you want with this. Does this member owe us any money today? Are there assessments paid?
I have to double check, I don't know. If they
And the reason I ask that is everybody goes, hey, we go in and clean up the trash and send them a bill. Well, if they owe us 3 years worth of assessments, now they owe us 3 years worth of
And I
assessments.
still want to clean it up and send them the bill. I mean, that wouldn't affect anything.
You want to clean it up? If you clean up a pigsty and put the pigs back in, you haven't cleaned up anything.
still cleaned up.
Go after them for their assessments and get rid of them.
We'll clean it up again.
We don't know whether or not their assessments are paid.
Right now, the incontrovertible fact is that the trash is there. It certainly looks ugly, and there are certainly people who live there who are presumably keeping up their properties that have to look at it. And so what we're talking about is an instance of Kerry coming in with a fast-track proposal to say, give him the 2/3 vote to get rid of that stuff. That's all.
Otherwise, we'd have trash out there for another month.
Or another 2 months.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit better package.
Well, you know,
See this.
and Marty,
This was the package.
the issues that you're raising today, and you're raising pretty much all the time, are things that need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed.
I keep raising them because they ain't getting fixed.
And, you know, actually, you're right. But they're a little different each time, and, you know, you try and come up with a set of procedures like that. We need, yes, they need to be fixed.
You were unable to make the last meeting.
That's because I got less than 24 hours notice for the last meeting.
Well, you got a 3-week
Okay,
notice.
all right. Let's move on to the next violation.
We'll take the vote at the regular meeting.
At the vote at the regular meeting. All right, we're looking at 82 Sandy Hook.
Now, this has been over a year.
Well,
almost 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that in itself is a question. I mean, you know, is there a reason why it's so long?
That's why I'm here, because I talked to Tom this morning, because I guess you guys have seen where he dropped the charges, but you have to look at how Chris filed the motion. It's cheaper to file a motion that way than to keep him retained and keep paying the process server. Every time they do a service lane, they can't follow her. So they say, it's not me to take care of the process server. The association has sent her 7 registered letters to 3 different addresses. She's changed her address in Lanza twice. We have a phone call from her. We entered her property on... She had trash laying along the road that the dogs had drug out in the road. We sent her a letter, we picked it up. She didn't respond to the letter. We sent her a bill for $110.61. She called 2 days later and said, I can send her all the bills I want. She's in foreclosure, she ain't paying it. We cleaned the trash out. She had a pod sitting in her driveway for 2 months. Called her about the pod. She said, I'm keeping that pod here as long as I want. No matter what you do, I ain't moving it. So now we sent it to court. Process server can't find her. To save the association money, I had the lawyer drop it with the prejudice, or without, whichever one that means we can go back and file at a later date. I brought it to you for a vote to enter to clean this mess up.
Okay, that's clear enough to me.
I can let it stay tied up in court.
Yeah, except who's winning? Anybody want to give me a final score on this one?
The neighbors are
The neighbors are winning. Ocean Pines is
The
winning.
neighbors win because we cleaned it up.
The surfboard is winning. Hadn't done a thing, hadn't paid house assessments on this house.
Yeah, well, again,
Don't tell me that makes a difference.
it's in
They're
foreclosure.
in arrears, Marty.
Did they pay the 102? I'm guessing not.
No,
Did we already
they won't.
send them?
Nope.
So how often do we keep cleaning up after these people?
Well, the question,
Look at the
we haven't cleaned up at all.
Don't clean it up at all, and now what happens?
Foreclose.
That's a different issue. That has nothing
It's
to do
not
with
a different
this
issue. You can get rid of the pig.
It is a different issue. Didn't you say this, she said that this is in foreclosure by the bank?
That's what she told me on the phone, yes.
And probably,
She's got an address in Milford now. I've got an address in Milford. I've got 2 different names. I've got an address in Millsboro. I've got an address in Ocean Ponds. 3 letters went to Ocean Ponds. And I've got a P.O. box. And I think it's a landowner's personal responsibility to keep their records updated in our system.
Agreed.
It is.
Bylaws say it.
What?
The bylaws say
And you
that.
also have a screen on lands that are our operations to tell when the date was last changed. They change them, they hide, they change them, they hide. Someone else calls them, I mean, if you want to put that in there, that's fine. But I'm telling you personal, when I've talked to her, she's not cleaning that mess up and personally told me she would.
Do you know what it looks like today as opposed to what this pictures show?
I haven't been there today, no.
Okay. I'd recommend we look at it again, because most of this stuff is gone. What happened, I mean, I don't know what happened, because you hear a lot of different stories, right? But that house had a problem with the pipes freezing. And apparently almost the whole house had to get repiped, new drywall, all that stuff. But this has been going on a long time. This mess has been going on a long time, right?
My first letter, I think, is 2007.
Yeah.
The inspector's not even here anymore.
Yeah. So you got a problem with someone who does not taking care of their property again and again and again and again. But I believe that almost all of this has been cleaned up. And before you go hire somebody to clean it up, I think you ought to take a quick look at it, because I think most of it's gone right now.
but we could make a motion.
Still authorize them to clean it up.
Still authorize them to clean it up, you know,
Yeah.
if it is required. Okay? Jim?
Comment was made that the property is in foreclosure, but we've got a problem property like that. It seems to me that you would want to track what's going on with regard to that and follow that out to a conclusion of some kind.
We had 6 go to the courthouse steps a week ago Monday. 6.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Say it again.
6 foreclosure by lender in Ocean Pines on the courthouse steps a week ago Monday. Wasn't it a week ago Monday, or was it 2 weeks ago Monday?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. It was like Ocean Pines Day in Snow Hill. And I'm sure we just sent them a bill the day before for cleaning the house
At
up.
least one of them was, is on your delinquency list, I know, as well as your problem list and everything else. But statement was made that this property is in foreclosure. It's apparently an obvious problem, piece of property. I would think that somewhere in your information with regard to this property, you're tracking that somehow. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying foreclose on the property. I'm saying you need to keep track of what's going on in your problem property.
And we have. The cleanup of the property and the collections of delinquent dues and foreclosures on the property are parallel systems. So even if I've got a continuing delinquency here, I still have a problem property that I want to see cleaned up.
Okay, we have, we're not doubting what this
If we have a problem property, as soon as we're notified that they've changed hands, we go right after the new guy to make sure he gets done. Because usually that's when it gets fixed.
I'm not doubting the comment on foreclosure.
Well, that was her comment to me.
That was a comment that was made to you.
Yes.
What I'm saying, if you can find out about that and be able to keep track. I haven't seen this.
Well, I think what Jim is suggesting, you said there's two parallel tracks. I think what Jim's suggesting is that we look at the places where those things intersect, and they are real problems. I mean, that is to say, the ones that are in foreclosure and, I mean, in other words, there ought to be a link between the two. The ones that are delinquent and then the ones that are...
I wouldn't change my procedure for cleaning up the property because it may or may not be in foreclosure.
No, but on the other hand, the properties that are being trashed and are delinquent at the same time deserve special attention, don't you think?
Which time frame on the road, Dave? Noon?
Yeah, well, in one, actually, but let's, if there are no...
Can I make a quick comment?
Real quick.
Real quick. It would probably be best if those properties that are going to be brought up at a board meeting have up-to-date information. Like Bill said, that property might be partially cleaned up now. So if they can go out the day before, a morning meeting, or the day of, an evening meeting, and just verify their information. Suggestion.
I would think that the people that are going to vote to go on the person's property would have looked at it.
The inspector, he gets a list of the properties that are coming up to the board on the Friday before the board meeting, and he does go out and final check. Actually, that property would have been inspected 5 times before you got it. Now, if they cleaned it up, they've cleaned it up since that, between then and there, because they got the final letter knowing that that was coming here today from the ARC. This one did go to ARC.
And they were out there Friday?
This one's been illegal. She could have got a call from Chris. You know, I don't know, from the attorney. The attorney may give her one last call before he brought it back to me.
I think the only point being made here, Kerry, is that the pictures are over a year old. And if we have to judge off the pictures, it may be, it's difficult for us to say whether or not someone's going to...
There's usually new pictures involved. I don't know about this one. Here's a year old because it was an attorney.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, I think what we're saying is that it would be nice if we had an updated picture of what this looks like in order for us to make a...
Well, this is one that we've changed. What you're talking about, 2 years style cases. Normally, the stuff that comes to the board have an updated picture on that Friday.
Yeah.
This one you're getting here has been tied up in legal, is why. Now I understand, maybe if we get them back from legal and go take a picture, I could have took one yesterday, or whatever your packets do, to have an updated picture. But I know it existed when it came back from legal, so it's within 2 weeks.
April 21st.
For sure being inspected.
So you're saying this picture, well, it's been inspected and the problem still
Whether the
exists?
picture looks at inspection.
And it's been done within the last 2 weeks?
But well, at least one director has looked at it. I drove by it, took a picture of it, but I didn't think it was... I mean, is it bad? It's way better in this picture.
It's way better in the picture.
Okay, I just have one basic question.
I would suggest, why don't we run a bus at every meeting, and we can pack up the media, the association members, all the board, we could all ride around and visit these properties, and that way it'd be a pleasant break from the non-meeting meeting.
Well, I think...
Especially if you're in a separate bus.
Well, once again, Joe, the value of this discussion, which is pretty valueless in my opinion, is we got to get these roles and missions squared away for who does what. So when it gets to us, we say, good-o, let's just move on, okay? But this particular case right here, I happened to drive by yesterday because I was curious to what I'm going to be voting on today. And it looks a lot better than this. And there was a guy out there in front, and he says, what are you looking at? And he comes out and starts talking to me. And he's a guy who's cleaning it up, okay? So I know a lot more about this case, a lot more than I'm even going to tell you. But it's a shame it's gone on this long, because we should have had this person taken care of a long time ago, which is why we're wasting all this damn time talking about it. We've got to get this thing finished.
Again, goes back to...
Yeah. I've got the woman's phone number. I know where she lives. I've got her real address. All that. It can be gotten. It's not that hard to do.
But whose responsibility is to get it? Mine?
Well, that's a matter of opinion. I think it's our management's responsibility to find out who our owners are and talk to them. That's my opinion.
What was her name? Who's there you talked to?
I talked to her. The guy said, "Here, you want to talk to her?" And he rang it. I said, "Oh, I don't know, you know." So I started talking to her.
What was her name?
What's her name? No, I don't want to bring it up here. It's on tape. Okay. For reasons that I shouldn't bring up her name.
Well, you can talk to Kerry about it later.
First name's Kimberly. Okay.
That's the name on the...
Yeah, it's right there. But I mean, and again, I'm not criticizing, I'm not trying to say, you know, but we've got to decide, are we going to do, when it gets to our level, what more do we do to make sure that when we vote, we're voting for the right thing? Okay?
There's a reason the DRs say you need a
two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds vote. It's an important vote. I don't care if it's to go on and clean up trash or it's to send something.
Yeah,
you know,
it's an important vote.
It's an important vote, or it wouldn't be in the DRs the way it's written. And I don't think it's the staff's job to take a picture of it an hour before the meeting, personally.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's our job.
That's something that has to be discussed. Okay, that was the last item on the agenda. I'd like to motion to close this meeting.
Motion to close.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. This meeting's closed. We'll take a 5-minute break until... Okay, all in favor? All right. We do not have written copies present, but we have all been emailed copies, and of what? Of the minutes of the meeting.
I have not
I was about
seen
to finish
them,
that.
so-
Of May 11th?
Abstained.
You have them? I went around and asked every...
May
Oh.
20.
No.
May 20, these are May 20 minutes. They were emailed, I think, it's almost a couple of weeks ago by Mrs. East.
No, Phyllis did her job. I just...
Yeah. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Unger. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. I think we have all ayes except...
No, I'm not...
One abstention. One abstention. I have a copy, and I think, Phil, have you made other copies for the commissioner's report? Mrs. Boggs' report. I mean, they're on the table. So I will not, certainly not read the report. And I think if anybody wants to pick one up, I'll just make a note for the camera that there's an increase in the number of rabid animals in the county, and that's a potentially serious situation. I had seen one on my property the other day, which may or may not have been rabid, but certainly looked pretty ill. Then move to the general manager's report. Tom?
The one item that is not written into the report is that our auditors are wrapping up their field work this week, and I expect to have the audit report available before the board meets in July. And on to the written report now. I mentioned last month that our 2009 membership sales were showing some slight increases. I also cautioned that it was a little too early to make any firm conclusions from that. And actually, since that time, the membership sales have leveled off somewhat. Year-to-date comparisons to last year show 40 fewer beach club passes, 84 fewer aquatics, 3 more tennis, and a decrease in coupon sales as well. Golf was behind by 13 memberships overall. I think part of the reason for this might be that the rain conditions and cooler temperatures have affected some sales. But as I mentioned last month, best gauge is to wait till around July 1st or so, when it's basically the vast majority of all our membership.
Excuse me.
We have made some modifications to amend the pass system so that the photo ID cards are now swipe cards that give us some better statistical information and help us to track traffic patterns of each of the facilities, and that system has been working well so far. Under the community, the next item is community hall update. Interior finishes are progressing nicely. I was over there yesterday, and they're actually installing some tile. Most of the paint is done. A lot of the grid work is up for the ceilings, and it's too early to announce an opening date, but we're well ahead of schedule, and we'll be working on finishing the building as quickly as we can and making that announcement. Under the golf course, there are two different bids that I have on the board's agenda for today. One is the year 3 of our multi-year drainage project. The low bidder is McDonald & Sons Incorporated. Their bid is $318,568. That's about $6,000 below what we had budgeted for the year, for the project. And I'm recommending that we accept that bid as presented. In a related matter, there's also a bid results for a replacement tractor backhoe. Selbyville Tractor and Equipment is a low bidder at $52,246, and that's about $1,800 below our budget allocation. On to our lawsuit cases, OPA versus SPN. That case has been continued with a new trial date set for October 28th. YMCA, we're still awaiting the setting of a trial date. And the IRS, we've successfully entered into a stipulation of facts in the case. There is a 90-day period where brief submissions and responses are provided by both sides of the case, and we expect a hearing to be scheduled after that 90 days expires. I'll keep you updated as soon as I get more information on that. During last month's report, I mentioned that I had a draft report from URS Corporation. We asked them to come back and take a hard look at those bridge abutments. They did that during the week of June 1st. I have a call into them to see when we might expect the final report, and I expect that to happen within the next 30 days or so. Tennis complex. The court lights have been installed, and we now have the option of utilizing the courts during evening hours. That helps us to avoid some of the midday heat complaints that kept attendance low in the afternoon. Under the website, we're targeting the beginning of July to unveil the new website. We're still working on many details to it, but it's coming along. It's progressing nicely, and we're optimistic we'll be able to hit our target. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from the board?
Yes.
Marty?
You mentioned they're installing tile at the community hall. There was talk of a change order to upgrade tile. Is that what we did?
Upgrade? No. The change order that was approved was put tile in the hallway and the bathrooms.
Is that what they're doing?
Marty, we didn't upgrade tile. What we did was the basic agreement had tile in the foyer, and then there was a path that went off to the right.
Right.
We added that, okay? We added tile in the 2 restrooms, and we added tile in the passageway between the large multi-purpose room and the meeting room to the right. We did.
And the cost of that change order? Which I'm assuming came out of the contingency?
Yeah. Top of my head, it's about $7,000. I can't remember exactly what it is. Okay? But it was on the last report I gave you. If you looked at it, you would have seen it.
And it was taken out of the contingency?
Yes, it was.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, it was.
I'll check the last report that you sent me.
Okay.
I mean, for instance, if I can carry that to the next
You
question,
may.
since
You
you brought it
certainly
up, I noticed that we have not deducted the cost of the backboard, which apparently we approved in order.
That's been included also.
It was not deducted on your report. It was shown
It was-
as a something down
It
the
was
road.
deducted, I'll be more than happy to show it to
It
you.
came out of the contingency.
Yes.
Ooh, now you already owe me one meal. You want to bet this one?
Yes.
Good. We're either even or you owe me 2 meals.
I know a great.
The bet is, I'm saying
No,
that the
let's,
contingency is not
let's,
being reduced.
let's, I don't even understand the question, Marty, but it's in there, okay?
There's a
All right.
it might, because something's in there, you know, there were a lot of things done at Ocean Pines that nobody sees.
I don't have that.
You're talking 13,000 for a backboard and 7,000 for tile. All I'm saying is, has that money been deducted from the contingency fund to show the balance after?
Yes.
You're wrong.
What is the balance of the
That's
contingency
okay.
fund?
The balance of the contingency is, you know, again, I run them as I get them. The balance of the contingency as of
44,000
today is
plus
about
one.
40,000.
Okay, that does not include the $13,000.
Sure it
Has
does.
not been deducted. No, it has not.
Right.
Do you know? Does anybody have a copy
We're
of
well
it?
within budget, the overall budget.
No. The answer
You
is
haven't
it
used up
has,
all of your
Marty.
contingency
I didn't bring it with me, sorry.
Okay, that's just, look, we've got a lunch bet on it, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for the general manager? If there are none, I'll move into public comments. Art?
My name is Art Sachs. Is that too loud? I live at 4A Bluebill Court. I'm here on my annual pilgrimage to the board, which I've done for about 13 years. And the subject is the condition of the stormwater drainage in Bluebill Court and East Mallard Drive. I've been asked by my neighbors to represent them at this meeting, and I suggested that I come alone in lieu of mobbing the room, as some other communities have done. I think it's unnecessary, and I think it's ridiculous showmanship. So I'm going to appeal to your judgment. I have a letter here from a gentleman, Russell Taylor, who's in his, well into his 80s. He said he would be here to present it, but he's just not physically able to do it. So he asked me to do it again. I'm calling the attention, this letter is dated 2005. It could have been written this morning. This letter was addressed to Mr. Ferguson. I'm here to do two things. I'm here to address the issue raised by Russell Taylor and myself. And I'm also here to correct misinformation that was put out by a local community paper. Community papers are wonderful, but they should not contain malicious and inaccurate information. To begin with, we answered in here. In the latter half of 1997, after some discussion, I'm reading from Mr. Taylor's notes, after some discussion between the OPA and Wood Duck 2 townhouse owners, OPA acknowledged the responsibility to maintain Bluebill Court among other roads on Wood Duck Island. Previous to that, the road was not paved. It was a kind of a crush and run. I'm sure you have another name for it, Bill. I'm not aware of the specific technical name, but it was not asphalt. In addition to that, there was a question about maintaining the bulkheads for that section of 14C. And there was a major dispute between the builder, Steen Associates, and the association as to the condition of the bulkheads, whether they were appropriate for the administration to take over. In frustration of this, with collapsing bulkheads, every single homeowner in that area of Ocean Pines willingly agreed to take on the responsibility of their bulkheads. And that decision has cost me $17,000. My adjacent neighbor on my right, $17,000, and my neighbor on my left, $19,000 to replace our own bulkheads. We are, to my knowledge, the only section of Ocean Pines that volunteered to do that to reduce an impasse between the builder and the association. So it's not that we're indifferent to these issues, but we are not going to take over the responsibility for the roads. In the fall of 1998, this road was resurfaced by Ocean Pines. Shortly after this was done, it became apparent that road drainage had not been addressed in this work. After any rain, the road is covered with pools of water for many days. Since this problem is most pronounced in front of 3A and 3B, which is where Mr. Russ Taylor lives, and also 4A and 4B, where I live, I took it upon myself to bring to the attention of the people of Public Works who are responsible for rectifying drainage problems in Ocean Pines. I can go on, and he lists all the efforts he's made to get the situation corrected. I will give this to Mrs. East. She can make that a part of her minutes, if you like, or the record of this meeting. Also with Mr. Taylor. It's a major problem. It's a major problem for the community. The road is not attractive. We all worry about the amenities. The amenities are important. I don't want to denigrate the importance of the amenities of Ocean Pines. But the basic infrastructure of Ocean Pines is what the resident has to deal with day in and day out. I have to live with ice in the wintertime. I have to live with large pools of water that are backing off the road into my driveway in the summertime and remain there for days as a breeding ground for mosquitoes. It's an unhealthy and an unsafe situation, and is caused by the lack of planning by Ocean Pines to put in stormwater drainage on that road when they paved the road in 1998. It was not done by the builder. It was not done by the residents. My driveway had been asphalted by the builder prior to this road construction. So if it wasn't put in right, it was because it wasn't planned and executed correctly. Subsequent to that, 3 other driveways were put in. 2 of them were put in with great attention. Asphalted driveways were put in with great attention to not being higher than the road asphalt. Recently, one of them was put in and needs to be corrected. There's some criticism about the driveways being higher in elevation than the road. I have 2 builders here who can attest to the fact that when you site a house on a lot, the lot should drain away from the foundation. And that is precisely what is happening in Wood Duck 2. Most of the houses involved in this situation are draining away from the foundation into the road. But all these houses that are involved have drains that drain directly into the canal off their rooftops. So the rooftop drainage is not going on to the road in great quantities. It's going into the canal. Something we couldn't do nowadays. But when we put these in, we did it. We cannot fixate on amenities as a community. Amenities are the frosting on the cake. The cake itself is the infrastructure of Ocean Pines. You cannot have streets that are perpetually in water and you have to drive through water to get to your driveways. It looks bad. It looks like a bad neighborhood. It does not look like a well-kept community. And this should be the board's first priority, is to get the streets of Ocean Pines looking like a well-maintained community. And it's not being done. The board is very much involved in the amenities. The board is incensed over the fact that some of the residents aren't keeping up their properties. I'm here to tell you that the administration is not keeping up the road situation in Wood Duck 2. It has to be addressed. Now, there was some comment made that the homeowners should go out and take on this problem themselves. If this is the desire of the administration that we correct the problem ourselves, I am going to personally get a pickaxe, and I'm going to go down the road, and I'm going to create a drainage ditch in front of my house, and see if my neighbors can do the same. Now, at my age, swinging a pickaxe will probably kill me. So I'll hire 2 high school kids, and they'll enjoy it and get their date money. But I have to correct the problem. It's been going on for years. This letter dated 2005 is only one of many. And it is time that the administration did something. Now, there's been some effort made. This is a study done by Suley. The date of the study is 2005, so it was undertaken earlier than that. And it proposes valley gutter detail. I will tell you that the 2 builders sitting here would not in any way approve investing in this kind of a solution. This is a very expensive and unnecessarily complicated way of doing it.
Art, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to call time.
Well, I hate to take 3 minutes.
Joe, you're out of order.
After 10 years.
Joe, you're out of order.
In deference to the board, I will ask you once again, please correct this problem for us.
Okay, thank you, Art. Are there any other? Yes.
My name's Ernie Artis. I live on 37 Quarterstaff Place. I'm disappointed we no longer have an animal control officer. I don't know whose idea was it to get rid of this person. They made less than $25,000 a year and promoted health and safety throughout the community. This person did a great job. They were very visible. And because of that visibility, it keeps the lawbreakers from breaking the law. Because we have a leash law in Ocean Pines. It's not part of our community association thing. It's an actual law. It's on the books of the county. Now, my neighbor 2 doors down, she goes outside with her 8-year-old daughter and her little pet to go take a walk. Thank God she was still in front of her own home when a very large dog 4 houses down spots her, who's unattainable, going with it. She doesn't even recognize the dog, and now the dog comes charging towards her. She was able to get back in the house without incident. She immediately called the police department, who referred her to call Worcester County Sheriff's Association. What's going on here? We're going to put health and safety on the back burner for a lousy $25,000 a year job, but condone the losses at your famous country club and your famous bar and restaurant that lost $300,000 last year? You do nothing about those losses, and you eliminate somebody who promoted health and safety in the community. I urge you to put this person back on. The person that did this job did a great job. They were visible. It's that visibility that keeps people from breaking the law. So think about it. Put this person back. This person was doing this job, did a great job. What are we going to do when someone's getting attacked by a dog? They're going to call down to Worcester County? You're telling me our police department's too busy to uphold the law? This is a law that's on the county of Worcester County. There's a problem here, gentlemen. I think you created it by doing away with this job. And I urge you to put it back on. It's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and we'll move on to old business. And the only old business we have is the resolutions. Bill, you gonna make that motion?
I'll make the motion, yeah. Did you have a copy of that motion?
Of the motion? Or
Yeah. Did you take a copy of that motion? Didn't he give you one?
Wait a second.
Dave's got it.
No,
Dave's got it.
Dave's got it.
Yeah, that's it.
This is it? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Let me get rid of this.
Hey, Bill, don't forget the wording change in that one.
Yeah, right. Amended, yeah.
I move that Resolution C13, C14, C15, F-01, and F-04, modifications therein as discussed at today's meeting, be approved, and Resolutions 1-83-10, 1-99-33, and 2-84-10 be canceled.
I second that.
Comment? All those in favor? Yep. Aye. Are there any?
We're sure we got this change in,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And if we don't, we'll look at we'll make another
The
motion.
motion carries.
I can never read.
Okay. We have, as was previously addressed in the general manager's meeting, I'll take them one at a time. Make a motion to approve the contract for golf maintenance drainage, Phase 3, to the company recommended by the general manager. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll give it a second.
Comment?
It's all under budget.
All under, yes, these are all under budget. No comment? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I didn't hear any. We'll move on to the golf maintenance equipment purchase, again, under budget. I make a motion to approve the purchase as recommended by the general manager.
Which one is that?
Golf maintenance equipment purchase. Maureen.
Okay.
Selberg, yeah. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. The ARC violation, we have two. Okay. Let's take the quarterstaff place first. There's a recommendation by the CPI to enter the property at 80 Quarterstaff Place and remove the trash. Do I have a motion to...
You're making the motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Well, it's always better if somebody else does it. I'll make the motion to instruct the CPI in accordance with their recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
I would much rather see this go before the committee, as the committee guidelines state it shall, as approved, whenever the date was, January 1. I mean, it just seems to me that everybody, yeah.
The next committee.
We're not doing this very well, I'll give you that. But here we are just going one more step. We do have written instructions right here on my left hand, and we're ignoring them.
You want to send it back for the meeting on the 7th
Yeah,
of July?
I do.
And then come
It's
back
never been to a meeting,
come
number
back to us
4.
The middle of July.
And then it'll come back to us at the end of July, and it'll...
Maybe, maybe not.
Well, you have a point well taken, I think, Marty, but in this case, it's nothing but trash. Just go in and clean the trash up, just like mowing grass, and get it done, and, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, it
That's
is a
my
point.
discussion part of it, call the question.
I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Marty Clark is opposed. Okay, the last violation, this is 82 Sandy Hook Road. The CPI has recommended to the Board of Directors, it directs the DPW to enter upon the property to remove the demolished shed parts and all associated loose debris around it. I move that the board accept the recommendation. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Comments?
Well, as I said earlier, the shed's gone. There's a lot, you know, so I think we need to modify the wording to clean up the debris, because that is not cleaned up. But there is no shed.
Or shed parts?
Yeah, they're gone.
If there's no shed and no shed parts, I don't know how we can support the motion.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's not exactly what you said.
Well, what I'm saying is that the exact words you use, I know that's not, I can't vote for that because I know it's not there.
Well, and all associated loose debris around it.
Okay, then we should, let's take out, remove the demolished shed and say, let's say, and remove loose debris.
We have a motion to amend the motion to remove the demolished shed parts.
Remove trash and debris, in the yard.
As required?
As necessary, yeah.
As necessary?
That's technically right.
Does that mean that Kerry is going to go back out and look at the property before this is done?
Well, he's going to have to, yeah.
I think that should be in there, that
If
he reviews.
If necessary.
As necessary.
As necessary.
Remove it.
Okay. Do I have to vote on the amended motion?
It's my belief that there'll be no need to do anything.
All right, do I have a motion?
You need
or
a second
for the amendment?
modification.
Yeah, for the modification. Okay. Can I take a vote on the modification? All those in favor? Aye. All right, the motion as modified, the main motion is to direct the DPW to enter upon the property to remove all associated loose debris as necessary. Can I have a second to that motion?
You already have one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you'll have one. Call the question. All those in comments?
No further discussion?
Discussion.
Right.
You can, yes.
I'm only saying this for the record. I'd like to modify this, that if his property is more than 1 year delinquent, that we foreclose on it.
It's not more than 1 year delinquent.
How do you know that?
Because I checked it yesterday.
Okay, that's good enough for me then. Go ahead.
Okay. No further comment, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. I have one committee appointment, which is Mr. Roy M. Foreman to the Recreation Parks, and if without objection, I would make that appointment. No objections? Okay, good.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, you're always in there, Ray. Do we have a second?
Before we can move to adjourn, we need to move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Closed session.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Two opposed? Okay. That would be Mr. Unger and Mr. Clark.
I didn't even know why we're going in.
We ought to say why we're going.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea why we're going in.
We're moving into closed session to discuss the details of the secrets contract.
Okay, well now.
We can do it right here.
Yeah, I think so. We have over an hour. Okay, now we have the motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
No, we just
And
adjourned.
second, we just did. Okay.